class with Mrs. Greenhouse. I'm so glad to have you all with me here today. I am really excited to be collaborating with ACTV on this series about making art and about building creativity. Today we're going to be spending some time with watercolor paints, and we're just going to be doing some really simple watercolor practice that you can do at home. Adults and kids, either one, can enjoy this. Let's see. Today we're going to be using the Crayola Education watercolors. We're going to be using my favorite Princeton snap brush. This is the size 6 round, and there's a size 12. I might spend some time with that one too. If you are watching this video for the first time, you may want to go back and watch the first 2 videos. I talk a little bit more about the supplies in those videos. We're also using the Strathmore watercolor paper. So the other day I was looking through my own sketchbook, and I was thinking about some simple things that you can make with watercolor paint. This one here is some fish. I used watercolor paints. Then I also used a black Sharpie pen to add some details to those. And these really cute birds. So we're going to play around with both of these today using watercolors and different kinds of pens. I like to cut my watercolor paper in half using a slicer, just because if I'm doing a practice, I'm just working on building creativity and building skills, and this is just for practice, I like to cut this in half. It will make it a whole lot easier, I guess not easier, less stressful to paint on a smaller sheet for me, so I'm going to use a half sheet. We're going to be using the watercolor paints. I've got a napkin, I've got a cup of water. I'm just going to moisten my watercolors here. And I think I will use this big 12. Okay. Let's play with these birds first. Look at this. There's just different colors, different shapes that I created. I didn't really have the end result in mind when I started painting. I'm just going to take my brush and start with a little wet dot there, and then put a few other colors in there. When you're starting to mix your watercolors like this, think about the color wheel. The colors that are close to each other on the color wheel will look better together. They'll mix better together. If you're looking at complementary colors or colors that are directly across from each other on the color wheel, if those start bleeding into each other, they turn a muddy brown color. So I wouldn't want to do a mix of red and green, but I could do a mix of red and purple, or I could do a mix of red and orange, because those colors are going to blend nicely together. What did I say? Red and purple. Now, if I'm thinking about birds, maybe one of my little blobs here that I'm painting right now could have like a head, and I'll come back to this later. And then let's see, maybe another blob here. I'm doing wet on dry now. Again, if you want more information about the wet on wet technique or the wet on dry technique, look back at our first watercolor video. And in this one, I did these little brush strokes. All of these things, I'm just, practicing with my brush, playing around, seeing what the brush does, seeing what the paints do. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get started. These paints are inexpensive. This paper is inexpensive. I do recommend getting watercolor paper if you're going to paint on it. You're going to have more success than trying to paint on thinner paper like construction paper or copy paper. Let's see, let me try something else here. What if I took this, made myself a little wet spot there. I love this teal color. Put some color in there. And then maybe a little purple. And then what if I picked up some of it with my paper towel? Just to see what would happen. So it starts, I think it starts kind of looking like little feathers. I could add some more. So you're just going to play around, adding color. Again, if you do a small piece, and this is just for playing, learning about the materials, not too worried about whether it's right or wrong, that's going to help build your creativity. Oh, this little bird is going to look like he's like shaking because he's got those little towel marks around him. Let's see, maybe another one with a, oh, I like that one with the wings. So this one has like, I could do some, see what happens when I brush the paint with the tip of the paintbrush. So play with something like that, let it dry. Another one that I did not too long ago was just dots like this. And I took the dots and a black pen and made snails. Aren't those so cute? And I actually turned that one into a little card. We can, oh, fish. The other idea was going to be fish today. So I've got my birds, they're going to dry, and we'll talk about adding some fun things to that. And then the fish. This one I did like a color scheme, all blues and greens. Let's try that. Again, we're just playing, thinking about what happens when we use the paints, how the paints work if we put water down first, how do they work if we don't put water down first. If we're going with all the blues and greens, we could also add a little yellow. We know these colors are going to mix well together because they're close to each other on the color wheel. Yellow would mix right in here. Maybe another little yellow fish here. Whatever colors you want to add. Just trying to avoid mixing complementary colors. This is a great activity for kids and adults. Sitting side by side, something to do over summer break, right? Just trying different shapes. I'm always amazed when I give kind of an open-ended project like this to my students, the things that they create. So parents, guardians, family members, just kind of say, let's paint some fish today and see what happens. And then, you know, you and your kids go for it. You'll be surprised at what they make. Such a great way to build creativity. That's looking pretty good. Again, I'm keeping all of this really in the same color scheme. There's no right or wrong. What if I just painted like a swash of color like that? If you're working on a small piece of paper and you're not really worried about the end result, I think you'll tend to be more open to making mistakes, and you learn from mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. You're going to build your skills and your creativity that way. Oh, I like this. But if it turns out really good, you can, you know, turn it into a card and send it to somebody and make their day. Looky there. I didn't do any of the pickup with this one. I could though. Take my paper towel and see what happens if I blot. I could also blot some water on there. Look at that. That's cute. Maybe the top of the water right there. Why not? Try it. Then you've got to let all this dry, and really, this is my favorite part, is then when you start getting creative with the dry one. So this is one I made yesterday, and this one. These two I made yesterday. And I'm going to use this black Sharpie pen to add some fun lines and some different things on here. But you could use, I've got a variety of Sharpies. Sometimes it's nice to try different weights of Sharpie, like thicknesses, because it adds some variety to your finished art. I've got a black Flair pen, and I might play around with this white gel pen. But I'm gonna start with this Sharpie pen. And we just get to start playing. Like, what features does a bird have? It has eyes, circles. It's got a beak. Might wanna outline this. Then I can do, here on this one I painted these little wings. I could do some bumpy lines to add feathers. That's really cute. And then maybe some feet. Kind of looks like an owl. I like that one a lot. Let's see. Oh, that's cute. That one right there. I played around with that on here. This one is looking off to the side. There's a beak right there and one eye. And I think on that one, I used the white gel pen to add some white in here. You could use a little white crayon or white, crayon probably wouldn't work. A little dot of white acrylic paint. Of course, now none of my gel pens are gonna work. Oh, that one's working good. Little white in there. Add the feet. You can add a wing. Here's just a curved line, and then almost like a zigzag line. I want that line to kind of mirror these puffy exterior lines there. Oh man, nothing cuter than a little bird. You could do a whole row of them, like on a wire, like sitting on a little wire. That'd be the really cute card. But the whole idea here, guys, is that you're just trying something. Not afraid to fail. You know, if you hate it, toss it in the recycling bin and try another one tomorrow. Just keep giving it a try. That looks pretty cute. Let's see, what else have we got here? This little guy. Oh, but I love that. Look at that. Look at that long skinny beak. Sometimes if you exaggerate the features, you really get something kind of exciting. And just marks. Think back to one of our previous episodes where I talked about making marks. It can be, you know, just lines, zigzags. You could do little curly cues or dots, X's, anything to add texture and variety. Just little marks. Here's a wing, more or less an oval. Maybe he's got some little tail feathers. Now this black Sharpie is, I think it's water soluble. So if you're planning on going back on top, it doesn't bleed too bad. The black Flair pen will really bleed. So if you're planning on going back on top, you've got to be careful with what you pick. Yeah, see how that one bleeds? So if you wanted to paint, you know, back on top of this and it was something that was going to bleed, you'd have to be real careful or you'd end up bleeding it. But I can go back here. Oh, what about little spiky hair? Orange beak. There you go. Look how cute that is. Sometimes I like, if I'm doing them all in a row, I like to make them like looking at each other, like they're just little buddies. Here we go. Here's, this guy's gonna be, his tail's gonna come up like this. Little eye. simple lines. Again, changing the variety of line can sometimes add to your art. Like if these were thicker, and then, you know, this eye was thicker. See the difference in the type of line? So you might decide, and that's how you make decisions as an artist. Like, I really like the way the line quality looks on this one. I don't love the way the line quality looks on this one because it's thicker. So I prefer a thinner line. Like, that's how you start making choices as an artist. Let's see. This one's going to be in flight. Beak. Wing. And if you wanted to, you could go back and paint those in if you're using a permanent marker. I love to make stuff like this and then mail it to a friend or put it on in a friend's, like at school, like stick in a little mailbox at school. Let's just cheer somebody's day up. Let's do the fish. I'm ready to move on to the fish. Those birds are cute. So try this. Cut a piece of paper in half, you know, get a piece of watercolor paper, cut it in half, paint, you know, different blobs. I wish that one was dry. I want to see what happens with that little, like, little bird shaking off in the bird bath. That's cute. I'll work on that one later. And some of these can be, you know, these are not supposed to be realistic. They can be almost cartoon-like. I like to outline everything. We're just building skills, building muscle memory. The more time you spend painting with the paintbrush and making different marks with your pen, the more your muscle memory will build. He's really cute. Maybe he has an eyebrow. Fish don't have eyebrows, but mine does. This one does. Oh, he's like, hello there. Little, yep, that's cute. Maybe there's one that's like kind of grouchy. His eyebrow comes down. He's like, mad, angry fish. Look in there. This pen's starting to dry out a little bit. I'm gonna swap it. So think about what else could you make with little blobs. I did snails and fish and birds. You could also create, well, last time we did little flowers. Anything that suits your fancy. That's just, these pens just are dried out. Maybe I'll switch to this big guy. Mushrooms are real popular right now. Lots of artists like mushrooms or succulents. Whatever you want to make. Oh yeah, he's grouchy. You can also include the paint, like these little purple blobs right here. You can just add those in to the design. Isn't that cute? So trying out different mixtures of paint, being really careful not to mix over. Okay, I got one more really fun one we're gonna try together. Where's my paper? Now, if you've got kids at home, you should definitely try this one. This one we're gonna do some, whoo, we're gonna blow some of the paint. Look at that. That's the one I did yesterday. I'm going to start with, again, this is the Strathmore watercolor paper. I think this came from Amazon. You can get it from Hobby Lobby, Michael's, and the Crayola paints. I'm going to make a water blob and then just put some color, drop some color on there. Thinking about what colors look nice together. This is that pink and purple. And then I'm gonna take the straw and just give it a little blow through the straw. You can try all the different things with this. Different colors, I mean. I'm going to try a little yellow at the bottom of this one. And a little green at the top. Let's try this one. Oh, maybe just for fun, a little blue in the middle. Now let's see what happens. Keep filling up the whole page. One of the things that I found really fun when I was doing this one yesterday was when the colors started mixing into each other unexpected, like the different blobs unexpectedly mixed into each other. I'm going to do this pink here. Let's see what happens. Oh, whew, that one really took off. So if you're playing with your kids, I mean, this is really about exploration. You could even sit outside and do this if you're worried it's going to make a mess. Just put a placemat down underneath it. Then, when it's dry, this is also really fun. You could start adding faces. I like the idea of monsters or aliens. Maybe you turn it this way and it's like sea creatures. Get really creative with it. I see a face already right in here. And this is an eye and another eye. Can you see that? And then look at that little mark that was left blank. There's a mouth. It's already starting to become a little face. And if you have the patience to do so, I love to outline stuff like this with the black pen. Or any pen. You could use a colored pen. You could use a colored marker, whatever interests you. You could also make like, ah, like a wild face. Such a fun idea to do with young people. That's really great. Oh, look, there's a nose right there. I see it. This guy's grouchy. He's just lending himself to being grouchy by the way the paint flowed. He's a little mad too because see, a lot of the colors got mixed up, so he turned kind of brown here because he had blue and pink and yellow and green, it all mixed up in here. Do you see how that turned kind of brown because all the colors mixed together? That's why he's mad. He says, I'm grouchy. Oh, that's so fun. And then just kind of outline all this. So I would love to see what you create. You can always send me a message on Instagram or Facebook. It's called @GHouseStudio is my Instagram and my Facebook for Mrs. Greenhouse, Ghouse Studio. That's pretty fun. Okay, I've got another fun thing, a little different. You can do the same idea as these little watercolor blobs. Same idea, but with a different material. So let's say you don't have watercolor paint, but you have markers. And this is, I call this painting with markers. This is so fun. I love to do this with my littlest. I mean, all my kids love it. All my students love it, but my littlest students are really in love with this. So again, if you don't have the paints, or you just want to try something different, try making blobs of color on your watercolor paper. You can do more than one color, but again, you probably don't want to do like these two colors together because that's complementary if you do those. I mean, let's just try it. Let's see what happens. If we did the red and the green, we're going to add water to this and we'll see what happens there versus like the blue and the green. And again, I'm just making little blobs because we can turn these into whatever we want. You could also kind of play around with color mixing with this if you want to talk about color mixing with your young people or just kind of play with it. There's yellow. You can't be too sad if your blue gets on your marker. It's okay, just, you know, rub it off. Be just fine. Let's try a pink one. And purple. I tend to avoid these neutral colors when I do this kind of activity. In the classroom, I take these out of the sets because they tend to just kind of make things really muddy. But if you're at home and you're playing with this and you want to try it, go for it. Go for it. Let's try this one. A little yellow on there. Okay, now I'm going to rinse my brush really good. I might switch to a smaller brush for this. This is a Royal and Langnickel. This is a great student brush. You can order these from Amazon or Art Supplies catalog. Okay, now I'm going to wet the marker. Watch. Oh, it's so cool. It's so cool. So we're doing basically the same thing as we were when we were making these other little blobs, but we're using the markers. Okay, let's see what happens with this one. Oh yeah, definitely not pretty. It's brown, kind of gray. But we could still, if we wanted to have like that, a little blowfish or a little bird with the fluffy, could still come like this with it. I've done flower projects with these. I've done all kinds of different projects with these with students, with young elementary students. Let's see if we can make green here. Oh, looky there. That's nice. I have enough paint here that I could even do, like, if I was going to do the bird project, I could add the little bird head there. Or, you know, add it on this side. You could take a piece of the, like a half sheet like this, fold it in half, draw like hearts all over it with the markers, paint them with the water, be such a cute little card. Mother's Day card, Valentine's Day card. It was just Earth Day card. This is fun. So again, once this all dries, oh look, there's a beak. Then you could do the birds. You could do make this one a fish. Oh, how about flying fish? The birds, the birds and the fish are flying. So take pictures of what you're making and send it to me. Message me on my Instagram or my Facebook. I would love, love, love to see what you're creating. And keep in mind the color wheel when you're using your supplies so that you don't end up with this mud. And I can't wait to see what you create, and I can't wait to have another art class with you soon. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great, great day. Get creative. Bye.